So would you be able to give me an idea of exactly what happened this week and why it's so monumental?
Sure. Well, there's a couple aspects. So one aspect is that there was a leaked majority opinion that appears to be real from a majority of the Supreme Court justices, and that I don't think has ever happened before, or it certainly hasn't happened in a long time. If it has happened, I'm not aware of it happening. So that's incredibly unusual. It shows that there's some leak on the Supreme Court that undermines people's respect for it. I think that makes it difficult for the Supreme Court justices to work together because they are supposed to have a relationship of trust, and apparently they do not. Then the second aspect is the substance of the opinion. So I think if the draft majority opinion becomes the real majority opinion and overrules Roe and Casey, that's probably the most momentous decision in my life. Probably the most momentous decision since Roe was decided back in 1973.
And who do you think? Oh, go ahead.
It's a big deal.
It is an interesting thing to hear something like this happening because, to most people, the Supreme Court, is a respected institution where you wouldn't expect things like this to be happening. So who do you think could be responsible for something like that?
Well, what I would ask is who would have an incentive from making the draft majority opinion public? And I think there are, three potential groups of people. So one potential group of people, and I think is probably the most likely, is a progressive justice or clerk who wants to make people aware of what they view as a very bad decision coming down, and to try and put political pressure on the Supreme Court justices to not have this bad decision. The second group would be a conservative justice or clerk who thinks to him or herself, there's a majority right now to overrule Roe. Let me make this opinion public so that way the pressure is on those five justices to not switch, because people will know and criticize them if they had switched. And then the third group of people, I think, would be a staff member of some sort, maybe administrative assistant or a clerk of some sort who has access to the opinions. And it could be, a conservative person, a liberal person, I don't know, who wanted to make that opinion public to put pressure on the justices one way or the other. So those are the hypotheses, and I don't know if we don't have a good judgment on who it is. Chief Justice Roberts, of course, has asked the U.S. Marshals to investigate, which they're doing now, and so I'm pretty confident we'll find out.
And
so that's a long way of saying I don't know for sure.
And Chief Justice John Roberts, he did make it clear that this was a draft and it wasn't, of course, something that's final. But for this to have been out there, what could be the implications of this on the court and people's public opinion of the court?
Yeah, well, they probably can't help it, right? Is there a way in which having sensitive leaked documents come out ahead of time makes people think more of the Supreme Court as an institution of law that functions well? Probably not. So it probably can't help. I think it probably could hurt in a number of ways. So one way would be that it shows that at least somebody inside the Supreme Court thinks that the justices are susceptible to political pressure, that they'll change their votes from what the law is to something else because of the fear of political pressure. So I think that's one aspect. So that's which is negative, right? I think another aspect, which I don't know, it depends on your perspective whether it's positive or negative, is that I think it's very unlikely. So let's say that you're one of the five justices who, at least as of this week, was in the majority to overrule Roe and Casey. And so there's a lot of controversy going around now, right? Like, there's this opinion, looks like they're going to overrule Roe. In whatever pain that they suffer, whatever pressure that they suffer, they're already suffering. And so if one was in their shoes, and if one of their reasonable concerns was, would overruling Roe cause a lot of harm to the Supreme Court, whatever that harm is, we've already experienced it. And so let's just issue the real majority opinion that actually does it, because the sting, the thorn has already been pulled, right? Or the Band-Aid's already been pulled off. And so all that pain's occurred. So I think if anything, it makes it more likely that that majority of justices will hang together and overrule Roe.
And for the people that are watching on the sidelines, those who are either in favor of this or who aren't in favor of this, what is your message to them?
That's a great question. Well, I don't know if I've got a message for them. I think it. Well, what I would say is, so I think the audience would be Americans, right? And as Americans, what we hope for, what we are entitled to, is, as the Supreme Court's building says. So when you walk in the Supreme Court building, above the Piedmont, it says equal justice under the law. And what this leak suggests is that at least some people in the Supreme Court think that the justices don't do equal justice under the law, that they buckle to political pressure sometimes. And so I think the message that I would say to Americans is that we need, we deserve a Supreme Court that isn't subject to political pressure. That's what I would say.
Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think you've had great questions, Jaden. So I don't have anything else that I'd want to say.